I am 79 years old, and I want to tell you something that nearly cost me everything I spent a lifetime building. Not a bad investment, not a scam, not a stranger. My own children. Now, before you turn this off, before you tell yourself your kids would never, that your family is different, that I must have done something to deserve it, I want you to hear me out. Because I said the same thing. Every single one of those things I said. Right up until the morning I sat across from a lawyer and watched her show me line by line exactly how close I had come. I'm not here to tell you your children are bad people. Mine aren't. Robert is a good man. Dennis loves me in his way. But love and financial interest are not the same thing. And nobody, not one person in my 79 years, ever sat me down and told me what happens to both of those things when the money gets large enough and the parents get old enough and the fear of the future gets loud enough. So I am telling you now. 7 things, every one of them true. Every one of them something I learned the hard way, in the specific, costly, humiliating way that only almost losing something can teach you. Stay with me, because if you are over 65 and you have assets and you have children who know about those assets, this conversation is already happening without you. My name is Harold. I spent 41 years as a civil engineer. I built bridges, actual bridges, the kind you drive across without thinking about the man who calculated every load and stress and variable so that the structure would hold. I was good at it, precise, methodical. I did not guess. I calculated. I verified. I built things that lasted. I was married to Miriam for 44 years. We had Robert in 1975 and Dennis in 1978. We built a life the way you build anything worth having, slowly, carefully, with more setbacks than the finished structure ever shows. The divorce was not dramatic. That is almost the worst thing about it. No affair, no catastrophe. Just 2 people who had organized themselves around raising children for so long that when the children left, they looked across the table at each other and realized they had forgotten to stay acquainted. Miriam moved to be near her sister in Arizona. We are civil, we are not friends. We split everything down the middle, and I kept the house and she kept what she kept, and we both walked away with enough. I had the house, valued then at around $340,000. I had my pension. I had $280,000 in savings accumulated over 4 decades of careful, deliberate bridge builder living. I was not rich, but I was comfortable, and I was proud of it. The specific pride of a man who never inherited anything and never asked anyone for anything, and built what he had with his own hands and his own calculations. That pride, it turns out, was also a vulnerability. The trouble did not arrive all at once. It never does. It started with concern. Robert called more often after the divorce, checking in, he said, making sure I was managing. He drove 4 hours to help me sort through the house in those first months, and I was grateful. He was being a good son. Then the questions started, gentle at first. Dad, have you thought about what you want to do with the house long term? Dad, have you updated your will since the divorce? Dad, Dennis and I were talking, and we just want to make sure you have a plan. I thought it was concern. It looked exactly like concern. It sounded like concern. Then one Sunday, both of them came for dinner, which was unusual because they rarely coordinated visits. And after the meal, Robert pulled out a document, a property management proposal. His idea, he said, was that he would take over management of my financial affairs to reduce my stress. He had already spoken to an accountant. He had drafted a power of attorney for my signature. He slid it across the table, the way you slide something across a table when you have already decided the answer. I almost signed it. I want you to understand that. I am a man who spent 41 years calculating structural integrity. I am not naive. I am not easily pressured. And I almost signed a document that would have handed control of everything I owned to my son without a single independent legal review. Because he was my son, because the dinner was warm, because I was 72 years old and recently divorced and quietly lonelier than I had told anyone, and the idea that my children were looking after me felt, in that moment, like exactly what I needed. I did not sign that night. I said I wanted to read it first. Robert's jaw tightened slightly, just enough. I called a lawyer the following Monday.
Her name was Patricia Chen, estate planning attorney, 22 years in practice. She read the document Robert had prepared, and then she looked at me over her glasses and said very calmly, "Mr. Harold, this document gives your son unconditional financial power of attorney with no oversight mechanism and no sunset clause. He could sell your house tomorrow, and you would have no legal recourse." I sat there for a moment. "He's my son," I said. "Yes," she said, "and this document doesn't know that." I hired her that afternoon. What Patricia taught me over the following months, and what I am telling you now, are these 7 things, every one of them true. Every one of them the thing your children will not say out loud, even if some part of them knows it. Truth 1. Your home is not just your home to your children, it is an asset. The moment your house appreciates beyond a certain value, something shifts in the people who stand to inherit it. Not necessarily consciously, not necessarily with bad intent, but the number exists in their minds. It shapes how they talk to you about your future, about assisted living, about whether you really need all that space. I know this because I looked up my own address on a property site after Patricia asked me to. $340,000 in 2015, $510,000 by 2022. That number was in Robert's head. He knew it better than I did. Truth 2. A power of attorney is not an act of love. It is a legal instrument. It can be both, but only if it is written correctly, witnessed independently, and reviewed by a lawyer who represents you and only you. Not the lawyer your child recommends, not the accountant they already spoke to. Yours, independently chosen, independently paid. Truth 3. The conversation about your finances is already happening, between your children, without you, right now. How do I know? Because Patricia told me that in 30 years of practice, she had never once had a case where the adult children had not already discussed the parent's estate before the parent knew the conversation had started. This is not malice, it is human nature. But you deserve a seat at that table. Go get one. Truth 4. Cognitive decline is a financial emergency, not just a medical one. The moment there is any question about your mental sharpness, a diagnosis, a hospital visit, a moment of confusion witnessed by the wrong person, the legal and financial landscape around you changes overnight. Documents get challenged, decisions get questioned. Patricia told me to get every legal document current and witnessed while my competence was beyond dispute. I did it within 60 days. You should do it this week. Truth 5. Medicaid and long-term care will consume everything you have if you are not prepared. I did not know this. I want to say that plainly. I was an educated man, a precise man, and I did not know that if I required long-term nursing care, the government could require me to spend down virtually all of my assets before assistance began. $280,000 in savings, gone, legally, before a single dollar of public assistance. The planning to protect against this exists. It requires a specific kind of legal and financial strategy. It requires starting years before you need it. Most people find out too late. Truth 6. Equal is not always fair, and fair is not always equal. Splitting your estate equally between children sounds right. It often isn't. One child may have sacrificed career years to care for you. One may have borrowed money never repaid. One may have a spouse who will make decisions about what happens to their inheritance before the ink is dry. An estate plan that simply divides everything equally can create injustice and conflict in equal measure. Think, decide, document it while you still can. Truth 7. The loneliness will make you vulnerable in ways nothing else can. This is the one nobody puts in a financial planning pamphlet. After the divorce, after the quiet settled in, after the children's visits got shorter and the house got bigger, I was lonely in a way I had never been in my life. And that loneliness made me want to believe the best about the document Robert slid across the table. It made me want to be looked after. It made me almost sign away my independence in exchange for the feeling that someone was paying attention. Your loneliness is not a character flaw, but it is a financial vulnerability. Know that. Protect yourself accordingly.
3 months after I hired Patricia, she finished the updated estate plan. New will, revocable living trust, financial power of attorney naming a professional fiduciary, not Robert, not Dennis, with specific, limited, reviewable powers. Healthcare directive. Everything documented, witnessed, filed. I called Robert that evening and told him. The silence lasted 11 seconds. I counted. I'm an engineer. I count things. Then he said, "Dad, I was just trying to help." "I know," I said, "and now I don't need the help, so we can just be father and son again." He did not speak to me for 6 weeks. He speaks to me now. Dennis never stopped. The holidays are manageable. We do not discuss my finances. That is how I prefer it. Here is what I know at 79, having almost lost everything and kept it instead. Your money is not just money. It is the physical evidence of your life's work. Every dollar represents a calculation made, a bridge designed, a year of showing up. It represents the life you built and your right to live it on your own terms for as long as you are breathing. Nobody, not your children, not the government, not a well-meaning accountant your son already spoke to, has the right to make decisions about that evidence without your full, informed, independently advised consent. You worked too long and too carefully to hand that over because dinner was warm and someone slid a document across the table and called it love. I want to say this plainly. Most children are not deliberately predatory. Most of this happens in a gray area of mixed motives, genuine concern and genuine self-interest occupying the same conversation, neither one fully honest about the other. Robert is not a villain. He is a man in his late 40s with a mortgage and children of his own, and a father sitting on a $510,000 house and a pension, and fear does complicated things to people's reasoning. Understanding that does not mean accepting it. You can love your children and protect yourself from their fear at the same time. Those two things are entirely compatible. If you are over 65 and you have assets and you have not spoken to an independent estate planning attorney in the last 3 years, stop what you're doing after this video and make that call.
Not the lawyer your child recommends, not the financial advisor your son already spoke to. Someone you found, someone who works for you, someone's only interest is yours. Update your will, review your power of attorney, understand what Medicaid spend down means for your specific situation. Have the conversation about long-term care costs before you need long-term care. Do it while your mind is sharp, your signature is uncontestable, and no one can claim you didn't understand what you were signing. I am 79. I drive a 2009 Ford, and I live in a house I own completely, and I make every financial decision that pertains to my life. I earned that right with 41 years of careful work. Nobody is getting it with a warm dinner and a document slid across a table. Not while I'm still breathing. If this reached something in you today, if something in these 7 truths landed somewhere uncomfortable and true, leave a comment. Tell me which one hit hardest. I read every one. And if you want more honest conversation about protecting what you built in the years when it matters most, subscribe. We are not done talking, you and I. Not even close.